Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to the 5th round, part 2 of our UFC 238 preview. Now, in this episode we're going to be looking at Tony Ferguson versus Donald Cerrone, we're looking at Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Eye, which is for the Women's Flyweight Championship, and of course the main event, which is Henry Cejudo versus Marlon Moraes for the Bantamweight Championship, of course, which is currently vacant. Now, before we get into the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and comment below your thoughts on the UFC 238 card. It looks like an absolutely cracking event, and we have some crazy fights going down, and we're going to be looking at some of them in this video right now. Now, Tony Ferguson is returning after a 7-month layout from, of course, his recent fight at UFC 229 against Anthony Pettis, which he did win. Now, Donald Cerrone comes into this as the number 4 lightweight and Tony Ferguson at number 2. And Cerrone has 35 wins, 11 losses, and 1 no contest. Now, of course, Tony Ferguson last fought against Anthony Pettis at UFC 229, of course, the Conor and Khabib fight, of course, and he very comfortably got the victory after, I believe, an injury to the hand of Anthony Pettis in the second round. I believe it was potentially the first, but he broke his hand, that is, and the fight got stopped due to a doctor's stoppage. I believe that it was his corner who called for the stoppage, and of course Tony Ferguson had already been out after an ACL injury, which put him out from UFC 223, of course, which he was going to be fighting for the title against Khabib. So he's had a very rough year, of course. He's had his issues outside the octagon and outside of MMA over the past 3-4 months. But he is back. Okuki is back, and he's a man who a year ago could have been the champion. Now, since UFC 229, Donald Cerrone has fought 3 times, winning all of those against Allied Quinta, most recently at UFC Ottawa, of course. He's fought Mike Perry and Alex Hernandez in between that as well. So he's coming in the more active fighter. He's coming in probably maybe the fresher fighter in terms of he's had more competitive bouts in between that. Now, of course, he fought recently, in early April at UFC Ottawa. So he's on a very quick turnaround. Donald Cerrone, he's not one to turn down a fight, and he's on the hunt for the UFC lightweight title. 3 wins. If he wins this weekend, he's probably in line for the title shot against either Dustin Poirier or Khabib, who fights at UFC 242, of course. Although I don't see Cerrone taking out 3 months, although he could do with the rest potentially. Now, Cerrone comes to this fight with the height advantage and the leg reach advantage, but it's in fact Tony Ferguson has a 3.5-inch reach advantage with the hands, so it's a very evenly balanced fight. It's probably going to be fight of the night. The fact that it's three rounds and not 5 almost gives it a bit more extra spice, because you don't have to worry about anyone gassing out, really. You don't have to be worrying about the championship round. Sometimes a 3-round fight can be better and more action-packed than a 5-round fight, because no one has to hold back for those extra 10 minutes. Now, 48% of Tony Ferguson's wins have come via KO or TKO, whereas the Donald Cerrone, the majority of his fights have come via submission. Now, Ferguson lands 5.5 strikes per minute, whereas Donald Cerrone is in that 4 region mark, so he'd be expecting more of an output from Tony Ferguson. But of course, it depends on how he comes into this fight. He's going to want to prove the point. He came into the media day with his title in the face-offs, that is. And I know Donald Cerrone is unbeaten since becoming a dad. And this is a fight where I don't want either fighter to lose. Now, Donald Cerrone does absorb slightly more than Tony Ferguson does, so I'm a little bit worried for Donald Cerrone, but he has got a much larger resume. He's been fighting for a lot longer than Tony Ferguson has in terms of his number of pro MMA fights, that is. Now, for takedowns, it's 1.29 for Cerrone and about 0.7 for Tony Ferguson, so I'd be expecting more of the takedown game from Cowboy, but Tony Ferguson does have a very good accuracy in the takedowns that he throws. It's slightly better than Donald Cerrone's, and he has a much better takedown defense. So I'd be expecting the takedowns to be stifled, and I'm hoping this is an absolute slobber knocker, and this is a fight that stays on the feet for 15 minutes, or however long the duration of the fight is, because I don't think I'd like to see it go to a decision. I'd like to see an absolute classic, and I think these two have it in them. They're 2 of the ballsiest fighters. They don't back down. They don't take no bullshit from anyone. And Donald Cerrone is on the hunt for the championship since becoming a dad. And Tony Ferguson, really, if he wants to get that title back, he needs to win this fight. So whoever loses this, I'd like to see them fight Conor, perhaps. I think Conor should get the loser of one of these 2, because I think both of them deserve a big payday. I think both of them deserve a title shot. And I think that's the next fight for him. I think for Justin Gaethje, I think Ali Quinta should be the perfect opponent for him next, coming back with a loss. And they're both, 5th and 6th within the rankings. So I think Justin Gaethje versus Ali Quinta, and both of them are badasses as well, who know how to throw a punch and know how to take one as well. Now, the submission average per 15 is very close, 1.49 for Tony Ferguson and 1.41 to Cerrone. So there's the option for a submission. Of course, we know Tony Ferguson's got very good jiu-jitsu. He's very good off his back. He's got some unorthodox striking. He's got some Wing Chun in there as well, which he showed off at UFC 229, of course. This one's going to be hard to predict. I don't want to see anyone lose. This is going to break my MMA heart, but I'm going to go for Tony Ferguson by decision. And now I know that seems very, very rough on Donald Cerrone, and it's going to be, but I just think Tony Ferguson, he seems in a calm place right now. He seems in a better place than he was 6 months ago, even. And I think Donald Cerrone's unbeaten run as a dad is going to come to an end, but I don't think he's going to be out of the title race, and I don't think he's going to be out of the fight with perhaps Conor McGregor, which I'd like to see perhaps at UFC 242. I'd like to see a number 1 lightweight contendership match, either as the co-main or just before the co-main event. I think that'd be a top class for the first Abu Dhabi card. Now moving on to the flyweight champions, we have Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Ai, who's come to this as an underdog. Now Shevchenko's got 16 wins and 3 losses, and Jessica Ai comes in this with 14 wins, 6 losses, and 1 no contest. Now both won their last fights at UFC 231, with of course Valentina Shevchenko winning the title against Joanna Jędrzejczyk in what was a 5-round war, the 3rd time she'd beaten Jędrzejczyk in her career, and Caitlin Chookagian was Jessica Ai's last opponent, where she also got the victory, of course. Now both fighters come into this with equal leg reach, but it's a 1-inch height advantage for Jessica Ai, but a 1-inch reach advantage for Valentina Shevchenko. Now worrying for me is that Jessica Ai has never gone into the championship rounds before. She's never had a 5-round fight, whereas Valentina Shevchenko has had 3 in her UFC career against Holly Holm, Amanda Nunes, and of course Joanna Jędrzejczyk most recently. So she knows how to go into the deep waters. She knows what it's like to go from that 15 to 25 minute mark, and I think this could be a very one-sided affair. Now, should Jessica Ai get the win, it's going to be more likely via decision. 71% of her wins have come via decision, whereas for Shevchenko, 41% have come via submission. So you're going to be looking at a submission victory perhaps for Valentina Shevchenko, the Bullet, coming from Kazakhstan into this UFC 238 main event. And as the queen of the flyweight, she could very much dominate this fight. I'm worried for Jessica Ai, who comes into this as quite a heavy underdog. Now both land very similar numbers in terms of strikes per minute. It's 3.63 for Jessica Ai and 3.36 for Valentina Shevchenko. Now of course Valentina Shevchenko is a fantastic boxer and kickboxer, coming from Thailand of course, where she trains more off camp. She trains in Muay Thai of course, and has a very phenomenal Muay Thai resume, and probably some of the best kicks in MMA, and especially within the UFC at the moment. Now worryingly, Jessica Ai absorbs 3.43 strikes per minute, whereas Valentina Shevchenko is just on the 2 mark range. So you'd be expecting Jessica Ai to be throwing a lot more, but also I'd imagine Valentina Shevchenko countering very well and being able to move within and out of distance very well. She's very quick on her feet, and I think she's going to be able to outstrike Jessica Ai in this fight. Now the grappling is 2.06 takedowns per 15 for Valentina Shevchenko, so I'm expecting her to get the takedowns. I'm expecting some ground and pound from her. She's a very tough fighter, of course, from that side of Eastern Europe, and of course, there's absolute war zones, and they breed fighters like that over in the likes of Dagestan, the Poland. We've got some amazing fighters from that region. And I think she's going to be too tough for Jessica Ai again, who doesn't really get any or many takedowns. So you'd be looking for Valentina Shevchenko to be the wrestler in this, to be the aggressor. And should it get to the ground, I think it's going to be Shevchenko either from a clinch into maybe a hip toss. With that, of course, Valentina Shevchenko does have a 47% accuracy, and that is a triumph in Jessica Ai's accuracy for takedowns, that is. She also has a better defense at 73% compared to 60% for Jessica Ai. So even if Jessica Ai does go for a takedown, Valentina Shevchenko is very, very good at being able to stifle them, of course. So yes, I'm obviously backing Valentina Shevchenko in this fight. I think she's too strong for Jessica Ai. Now, Jessica Ai, should she win, it would be considered probably an upset and a shock. But I just don't think she's got it in her. I think she's coming to this knowing she's the underdog. And, sometimes that can be pressure that people and fighters really thrive off, and it seems like Jessica Ai is doing that. But I just don't think it's slightly enough for her in this fight. Now, maybe we get a rematch, perhaps. Or we could see potentially what we saw against Rose Namajunas and Jessica Andrade, where the champ comes out this more favourably, but, it only takes one shot or one sort of takedown and the fight is over, and then we see Jessica Ai crowned the champion. But I'm back in Valentina Shevchenko. I think it's going to get done in the later rounds. I think Jessica Ai is going to get to that third round and either gas out, or Shevchenko is going to use her experience of being in those rounds a lot longer and a lot more frequent than Jessica Ai. I think that's where the fight's going to be won. So I'm going to go for a fourth round stoppage for Valentina Shevchenko to remain and retain the flyweight championship. Now, the final fight on this card is Henry Cejudo, who comes into this as flyweight championship. Of course, he had a massive win against Demetrius Johnson, who's now at 1FC, and of course the fight with TJ Dillashaw, who came down to the 125-pound division to become a double champ. And of course, Henry Cejudo beat him within 60 seconds of the very first round. Now, since then, TJ Dillashaw popped for EPO and got suspended, and of course had to vacate the belt. So now we've had Marlon Moraes, who recently beat Rafael Sancho at UFC Fortaleza and became the #1 contender. Now, this fight started off pretty amicably, it seemed, but at the press conference, of course, that we had for all the summer bouts, this got pretty heated, should we say, and it looks like Marlon Moraes is really coming in looking like he has a target to save that almost bantamweight division. He's coming in as the opposite as Henry Cejudo, who's coming up as the attacker from another division. Now, he wants to become double champ. He wants the same chance that TJ Dillashaw had, but of course he's coming up against a different opponent, and Marlon Moraes is an absolute killer. Whereas Moraes is 22-5-1, so Moraes comes to this with a much more or a much higher experience within pro MMA, and of course he's had to work his way up the bantamweight rankings, and he looked phenomenal in his last fight. Again, I didn't think they'd go out of the first round with a knockout against Rafael Sancho, which earned him the title shot, of course. Now, as the bigger fighter, Marlon Moraes comes in this with a bigger height advantage and reach advantage, but both of them have equal leg reach, funnily enough. So, Marlon Moraes has quite a stocky figure in his chest. He's got a lot of power. He hits very hard, but they're going to be standing up, I think. I think most of these fights are going to be stand-up, and I think it's going to be almost a punch-for-punch fight for Marlon Moraes. And I think should he hit Henry Cejudo, I think Henry Cejudo's got a lot of trouble to face. But he is a gold medal wrestler. I don't know if he's told you that enough. He's got a gold Olympic medal, Henry Cejudo, so he could put that to good use and become a champ. Now, for Cejudo, 58% of his wins have come via decision, so if this fight is to go in Cejudo's favour, I'd imagine it's going to go to full 5 rounds. Now, for Marlon Moraes, 45% of his fights have come via KO or TKO. So again, we've got someone who wrestles and likes to grind for a victory, and we've got someone who's an absolute killer. And he looks like one as well. You see him, when he gets quite animated, he looks like a stone-cold killer, Marlon Moraes does. And I think Cejudo's got his work cut out for him, to be honest. Now, saying all that, Henry Cejudo does have a slightly higher strikes per minute landed output compared to Marlon Moraes. It's within the free range, 3.5 for Cejudo and 3.2 for Moraes, so it's very close, it's very even, and this is probably the hardest fight on the card, maybe other than perhaps Tony Ferguson and Cerrone to predict. Now, both, funnily enough, absorbed the same amount at 2.6, so of course they're throwing 3 shots per minute and getting two back for their troubles, really. So again, an even fight. This tells us, and I think it's going to be a fun fight. I think for Cejudo, he's going to want to take this to the ground ASAP. Now, of course, against TJ Dillashaw, a lucky punch that knocked down Dillashaw, but he came out very quick and got it done with all in a minute. Now, as we know, Henry Cejudo is a gold medal winning Olympic medalist, and again, I don't know if he's not told you that, but again, he has 2.3 takedowns per 15, and now this should be a 25-minute match. You're going to be putting it up to 3.5, maybe 4, and that is significantly higher than, of course, Marlon Moraes, who's not a wrestler, should we say. Cejudo has a better accuracy at 35%, and he also has a better takedown defense at 88%. Marlon Moraes is only at 60%, so he's going to need to be stopping 3 of those takedowns than they should be in the early rounds, because I don't know how he is with a gas tank in terms of going 5 rounds. Of course, he was scheduled for 5 rounds at UFC Thought to Laser, but only needed to do it within 5, really. Within 5 minutes, that is. Now again, both have very low submission averages. It's less than 1 per 15, so I don't expect this to be a fight that finishes with a submission victory for either fighter. I think this is probably going to go the distance. I think it's going to be an absolute war between someone who wants to become champ and someone who's looking to cement their legacy in a 135-pound division, which at the moment is quite broken with Cody Garbrandt on a loss streak. Dominic Cruz is injured, and of course TJ Dillashaw is suspended for 2 years and probably not going to come back. I don't think he might come back in those 2 years' time, but his legacy has been tainted. So we're looking for someone to help rebuild this bantamweight division. Now, whether the messenger is the one to do that as a champ status, but his sort of role was to save the flyweights, and then he suddenly bounced back up when you got the likes of Joseph Benavidez, who's quite honestly deserved another title shot at the 125-pound division. Now, whether they needed an interim championship, perhaps, but. And of course, Cejudo's come out with all this cringe, I think it's cringe jitsu or cringe judo, that he's come out. He's put out this personality which made him quite a heel, but I'm quite enjoying it. I think it's one that's getting people talking about Cejudo. You know, the 125-pound division didn't get much limelight, and suddenly now with Cejudo using his stature, coming out with all these gimmicks, he's really getting his exposure that he deserves. And now, of course, Cejudo's never won by a submission, whereas Moraes has got 6 submission victories within his arsenal and within his resume. So perhaps Moraes could get the submission victory. Now, again, this is a very, very difficult one to predict, so let me know your predictions in the comments below. And of course, follow me on Instagram and Twitter at CageChatYT to let me know what your thoughts are. But I'm going to go for Moraes, and I think Moraes is going to get a finish inside 2 rounds, and I think he's going to become the bantamweight championship and potentially look after that division for the next year and a half perhaps. But I think Moraes deserves the championship. I think Henry Cejudo can look after that 125-pound belt just fine, and I think that's where he deserves to be. He deserves to cement a legacy at 125, just like Moraes deserves to cement a legacy at 135. So yes, that is the end of the 5th round UFC 238 preview. I'm so excited for this card. It's probably the best of the year for me so far. With where the fights are staggered out, we've got Tatiana Suarez in the prelims, we've got Joanne Calderwood in the early prelims kicking off the card, and we've got so much more on offer. Angela Hill, of course, in the early prelims. So yes, let me know your thoughts on the card. Let me know your predictions in the comments below. And of course, make sure to subscribe to Cage Chat for more content, and I'll see you on Monday for the UFC 238 review.